Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Callum. In this episode we see possibly the first truly realistic Indian zoo project come to life. I'm not talking about those towering arches, domed temples, or street markets. I'm talking about an authentic Indian zoo, one that feels like we are exploring a real zoo. Building a truly realistic Indian zoo is a huge challenge. Vastly different building techniques, especially more open, sparse habitats, brings a whole load of new techniques to try out. This episode tackles that head on with Satpura's entrance plaza, focusing on the vibrant world of Indian monkeys. Discover innovative solutions and exciting design choices shaping this unique space. Welcome to Satpura Zoo. As we learned in episode 13 of the Coldwater Falls Zoo, its Untamed India zone has been abandoned in favour of pursuing a realistic Indian zoo where all the animals feel right at home. An in-depth South Asian exhibit area isn't really a thing in a North American zoo. Sure, you might find the odd exhibit for say nilgai or Indian rhino, but dedicating a third of the zoo to India is borderline ridiculous. Satpura Zoo is perhaps the first truly realistic Indian zoo, focusing on bringing all the authentic parts of a real Indian zoo together into one zoo project. This specifically includes the species list, which has had extensive research into the latest animal collections, from local advice, and by watching way too many zoo tours. We begin today by immersing ourselves in a pretty lengthy episode with the entrance plaza, which will be filled with 4 exciting native monkey species, with 2 rare monkeys, the Gee's golden langur and the Lion-tailed Macaque, while more familiar primates in India are represented by the Rhesus Macaque and the Hanuman Langur. The concept of a primate-focused entrance is definitely not a common one in Plaza Zoo. We are all well aware of the general lack of monkey representation for a single region, with maybe only Southeast Asia qualifying for a semi-realistic build. This episode in fact only has one official monkey featured, the Lion-tailed Macaque. The rest are modded monkeys to fill those gaps. But why monkeys? Well, as part of my research for the Indian Zoo project, I watched tons of different zoo tours to immerse myself in Indian zoo design and of course gather a species list of animals kept in zoos there. During this, there was 2 zoos that grabbed my attention as a unique zoo entrance. The Vizag Zoo with 7 primate species to the left of the entrance, and the Assam State Zoo with a fantastic island complex for gibbons and the golden langur. So naturally, like any good Planet Zoo content creator who leeches off real zoo design, I took the aspects of both of these layouts and combined them into one, combining the Assam State Zoo's island-inspired habitats, variety of monkeys and aviary-style habitats. Before we get to see the monkeys, however, there is so much to get through first. This is of course the entire entrance plaza, and 4 monkey habitats combined in one build for the ultimate zoo entrance episode. Zoo entrance design is among one of the most difficult parts for starting a realistic zoo project, especially when the urge to make one of those Indian temple archways is too great. The important thing to note for Indian zoo design is that the classic temple archways are more of a stereotype than an actual practice. The only strong link to confirm that a real zoo does this is the Mumbai Zoo's entrance gate. However, I believe this is more to do with the age of the zoo itself. That zoo was established in 1835 and most likely heavily influenced by British Victorian architecture. Elsewhere in India, there is a range of styles, but more simple, a concrete arch with the name printed on the arch curve is the most common sight. That's not to say modern zoo design in India isn't a thing. Zoos who are able to have renovated their entrances and animal exhibits, especially in the 21st century. Mysore and Vandalur are 2 key examples of more modern zoo entrances. My zoo, the Satpura Zoo, is taking inspiration from the Chatterbox Zoo, In my opinion, the nicest zoo entrance for an Indian zoo. The zoo entrance consists of a modern entrance gate building using the best range of modern materials possible, along with a more classic style pieces such as a bamboo thatched roof and an Indian inspired animal statue topper. This statue, at the real zoo specifically, is a tree of life statue with many of the key animals of the zoo, such as elephant, lion, antelope and hippo. Elsewhere in the entrance, the plaza features a nice spacious path, planters with native Indian plants, a ticketing booth, and in the future, a natural history museum which I promise will be fully detailed inside and out. The most important thing here to note at the entrance is using the zoo's full name as what seems custom for Indian zoo entrances. Therefore, the Satpura Zoo becomes the Satpura Zoological Park. As I'm sure we all know, zoo is simply the shortened version of zoological park or garden. So what's the plan for Satpura then? Given this is the first episode and some of us are a bit unsure about what an Indian zoo can bring, as the original Untamed India plan did have some exciting ideas. Untamed India of the Coldwater Falls Zoo took a basic approach to covering several unique ecosystems of India, covering just some of the iconic animals found in each of those. A nice enough plan like many Planet Zoo themed zones, however Satpura completely drops that and instead looks at how real Indian zoos are built. Indian zoos are in a way focused extensively on native animal conservation with few actual exotic or foreign wildlife. This is because in the past, Indian zoos traded their own animals to gain exotic animals from other zoos around the world. In more recent decades, however, the Indian zoo focus has completely switched to focus on native animals after the likes of Bengal tiger and Indian rhino conservation have become key messages in conservation. This is why when people look at zoo maps of Indian zoos, there are barely any African animals, for example. Unlike most major European or North American zoos where African areas feel like half the zoo, India only has a few species represented. Specifically, iconic African hoofstock like African antelopes have absolutely zero representation in Indian zoos. Instead, antelopes are represented by Indian antelopes like the black buck, nilgai and chinkara. Satpura also looks a realistic zoo layout, gone are themed zones for this zoo, but a loop-based zoo, which is just really a random layout of animals. Although I have tried to ensure the layout feels realistic with some animals grouped together, such as big cats, African animals, primates, or antelopes. These four animal groupings feel pretty prominent in real zoos, so I'll try my best to showcase how this works out. Let's start the entrance as in today's episode. This is the primate area of the zoo, however there are some extra primates further along in the zoo that don't fit the Indian monkey theme I am currently working on. The entrance here brings guests to explore the diverse range of monkeys found in all corners of India, from the Western Ghats with the Lion-tailed Macaque, the extremely common Rhesus Macaques and Hanuman Langurs, and the extremely rare Geese Golden Langur in northeast India. The entrance, consisting of a mix of monkey aviaries and outdoor island habitats, offers a unique but also immersive look into the India Zoo design. The main path goes straight on past these monkey habitats to reach the main zoo loop ahead. However, take a left and there is a single track area focusing on Africa. This is an exciting one as there is a mix of African animals rarely put together in Indian zoos. There will be Hamadryas baboon, Nile crocodile, hippopotamus, and a mixed savanna habitat featuring giraffe, zebra, and ostrich. For reference, this is a collection of the most commonly found African animals in Indian zoos, especially hippos for some reason. It seems that even lower budget Indian zoos manage to showcase hippos, what one may imagine is a bit insane with how hippos need to be managed in Planet Zoo and what I imagine in real life as well. There is also a possibility of Asian elephants near the hippos, if there is such a demand for it. Elephants are some of the most iconic Indian zoo animals, with many of the larger Indian zoos dedicating massive spaces for them. Leaving the Africa track, the main loop is the main part of the zoo. The main path goes in a good sized loop shape, with animals on both sides of the path. In a clockwise direction, the main loop still follows Africa here. For a bit more rare animal representation and but covering iconic zoo animals, the African buffalo, chimpanzee and ring-tailed lemur round out Africa perfectly. Anything more for Africa would end at meerkats, but that's 7 habitats representing a pretty good range of African areas. Not too bad actually. Moving on, what's next? Yes, the small mammal house. While trying to avoid the slightly depressing row of small mammal aviaries one might find in an Indian zoo, thankfully there are several small netted habitat examples that gave me the idea for a small mammal house. This could be an exclusive small Indian mammal selection or mix some African animals into it. Regardless, this will feature about 4 or 5 habitats for possibly honey badger, Indian giant squirrel, jungle cat and Indian crested porcupine. The focus here will absolutely be the honey badger, as that will be a crowd favourite. Above the mammal house we reach the big cats, Asiatic lion, Bengal tiger and exotic species for South America, jaguar. While the original plan was actually Indian leopards instead of jaguar, I'm sure some South American representation would be appreciated. Bears and large mammals are next to the top of the zoo. This features one of the most common large mammals in Indian zoos, the Himalayan black bear. Very similar to the Formosan black bear in game, it is also a subspecies of the Asiatic black bear, just a bit more furry. Sloth bear, Indian rhino, chital deer and gaur or Indian bison also making an appearance. Now the second half of the main zoo loop gets a bit more random, as they need to fit in as many essential Indian zoo animals as possible. For exotic animal species we have the Borneo orangutan and red-necked wallaby, which give a nice break from Indian animals in this part of the loop. For natives it is quite the list. There is striped hyena, dhole, Indian vulture or demoiselle crane, Nilgiri tar, blackbuck, chinkara, nilgai and gharial. Can't forget about a reptile house as well, which would feature indoor and outdoor reptile exhibits, pretty much focusing on native reptile species, with the likes of the king cobra absolutely needing to make an appearance. After that, just one more area, the aviaries. I'm sure we've noticed a lack of birds, and this is the area for it. A modern walk through wetland aviary brings us close to birds like the greater flamingo, cranes, great egret and any more other iconic Indian wetland birds. I'm sure there is room for some South American macaws, hornbills and any other static aviaries as well. Speaking of another time, this entrance plaza is still continuing on, so enjoy the music until I return for the monkey talk with the Hanuman Langurs. With the entrance plaza work finally completed, the work on the first of the 4 monkeys can begin. However, I won't show off 4 builds, there are actually only 2 distinct designs. First up will be the aviary style habitat, the second is the outdoor monkey island habitat. The first of these is the Hanuman Langur aviary, which is heavily inspired by Mysore's aviary habitat for ring-tailed lemurs. This is possibly the best version of a primate aviary in an Indian zoo, as there is a pretty wide range of horrendous to that's pretty nice. When discussing zoo design for Satpura with others, one of the best advice was design a real Indian zoo, but stick to Western zoo welfare standards as much as possible. It's quite obvious that many Indian zoos suffer from a lack of funding, so even in the larger zoos, some areas are outstanding while others, well, not so much. Monkey aviaries are really cages that you might expect to see in a historical zoo photograph, is sadly the reality for many monkeys or birds in Indian zoos. Zoos who can afford it, such as the Mysore Zoo, absolutely have some impressive habitats. This is the idea behind the design for Satpura Zoo essentially. So find a great example in an real Indian zoo and adapt it to ensure welfare is at its highest priority. The monkey aviary at the Satpura Zoo takes a slight industrial approach to the aviary structure. A complex set of metal beams forming a decent sized metal girder holds up the mesh. Despite the large and angled appearance of the aviary, it's rather easy enough to build, as it is at its core a rectangular aviary. Similar to my advice in my aviary tutorial, the process of building a rectangular aviary is build one segment like the walls and roof, then duplicate the segment to the desired aviary length. This seriously cuts down building time for any segments of the exact same size and appearance. A rectangular aviary means no curves needed whatsoever, which maximises the space the langurs can use and makes building such an aviary a stress-free time. This allows a spacious interior for the langurs who can utilise almost all that vertical space by the use of connected ropes or other climbing materials. The animal in focus right now is the Hanuman Langur, possibly the most well-known langur species in Asia. Although known as the sacred monkey or grey langur, there are 7 subspecies of the grey langur, occupying all of India into the Himalayas, Nepal and Tibet. Hanuman, or the Northern Plains grey langurs, are the subspecies in focus at the Satpura Zoo. They are large furry monkeys named after the Hindu god Hanuman. Hanuman is often depicted as part man, part monkey, and in turn, the Hanuman Langur is considered sacred in Hindu culture. The subspecies of grey langur can be found in tropical dry forest and tropical dry shrubland in central and northern India, the most widespread of all grey langurs. The Hanuman Langur eats primarily fruits and leaves. Also a key reason of its widespread survival is the fact that it can consume mature leaves, which is absolutely essential when food supplies dwindle throughout the dry season. Langur groups that have access to food year-round, such as food provided at Hindu temples, or the ability to raid agricultural crops year-round, also breed throughout the year, ensuring langur populations thrive throughout their range. The problem, of course, with this is human conflict. Despite its sacred status in Hindu culture, the Hanuman Langur does face threats. It is a rather urban dwelling primate, especially within larger cities and towns with abundant food supplies. The langur is subject to many different threats because of this. This includes roadkill, attacks by domestic dogs, forest fires, diseases from domestic animals, and occasionally killed by humans to prevent them from raiding crops. Fun fact about the Hanuman Langur is that it is associated with deer, specifically the chital deer. Both species respond to each other's alarm calls, where the deer benefit from the male langurs in the trees watching for predators, where the langur benefit from the deer's better sense of smell and hearing. The other monkey species found in the second aviary is the Rhesus Macaque. Spanning across 11 Asian countries, from Afghanistan to Thailand, the Rhesus Macaque are incredibly adaptable to different environments and have the largest native range of any non-human primate. Their habitats range from arid grassland to high-altitude bamboo forests as high as 13,000 feet, 4,000 metres. Just like their habitat range, Rhesus macaques have a very diverse diet. They are omnivores and will eat fruits, seeds, leaves, tree bark, grasses, fungi, insects, and fish. That's quite the range of foods. However, it doesn't end there, as these macaques are also heavily present in urban environments. In those places, macaques will take advantage of human crops, waste, or even stealing from humans directly, earning it quite the infamous reputation. Rhesus macaque is also well known to science due to its easy upkeep in captivity, wide availability, and closeness to humans. It has been used extensively in medical and biological research on human and animal health topics. Of course, this has had a huge range of controversial experiments behind animal testing in general, although notable medical breakthroughs by the use of the macaque include the development of rabies, smallpox and polio vaccines, creation of treatments for HIV, and understanding of the female reproductive cycle. Even though the macaque is tolerant of a wide range of habitats, it still comes under threats. Natural predators like domestic dogs, leopards and tigers hunt these macaques. They experience conflict with humans due to crop raiding and their aggressive nature to compete for resources, and releasing captive macaques into wild groups threatens the population. Raising captive macaques are a problem is due to gene dilution and the introduction of domestic diseases being transferred to wild macaques. Opposite the two monkey aviaries, there are two more habitats to build. Two immersive tropical island habitats for the endangered monkeys of the zoo, the Gee's golden langur and the lion-tailed macaque, each with their own island. Inspired by the Assam State Zoo and the Vandalur Zoo primate islands, the pair of island habitats will offer a fantastic experience when entering the zoo. Each island provides around double the space compared to the aviaries and have several large trees with connected climbing frames to explore. While it may seem a bit unrealistic given the size of these islands when initially making them, each island will work out at around 800 metres squared, which I think is pretty average when looking at the design of Indian zoo primate habitats. Creating a monkey island is a little difficult if you aren't skilled at using the landscaping tools. Creating the moat by placing an exterior wall and digging down is fairly easy, if a bit tedious. The actual island though is a bit more involved, as you need to ensure the island is flat enough for the monkeys to explore, but the edges of the island also need a gentle slope leading down into the moat. The moat needs to also be deep enough as well to keep the monkeys inside the habitat. Another factor in island design is noting the exact water level mark to ensure the island you carve out isn't going to be too tall or completely buried in water. While the island landscaping continues, let's learn about the last two monkeys we'll see today. The island I am showcasing in the speed builder right now is the Gee's golden langur. The Gee's golden langur, or more simply the golden langur, is one of the rarest primates in the world. The Black Mountains of Bhutan and a small region in Assam, in northeastern India, is the last remaining home of the golden langur. With their long golden fur, golden langurs are pretty easy to spot, however the langur doesn't want you to. They are extremely shy and avoid human interaction as much as possible. Researchers have a very difficult time trying to study the golden langur as they tend to flee when humans are present. This has troubled conservation efforts for the langur as very little is known about its wild behaviour. The golden langur was formerly found throughout northeast India in vast woodland habitats. However, rapid urbanization decimated their native habitat, especially in the late 20th century. An estimated up to 50% of golden langur habitats were destroyed between 1988 and 1998. Less than 7,000 remain today, with 80% living outside of protected areas such as national parks. Their range has also been limited to about 193 square miles, or 500 square kilometres, much of which is vastly unsuitable habitat. Where the golden langur still lives today, they live in a variety of forested habitats. This includes subtropical and temperate forests and subalpine forests up to an elevation of 10,000 feet or 3,000 metres. Golden langurs highly depend on the dense forest cover because of their diet. Their diet mainly consists of young leaves that are still soft, along with ripe and unripe fruits found in either the canopy or the understory. While the second monkey to show off is one we did learn about during the Western Ghats episode of Coldwater Falls Zoo, surely it can't hurt to go over again. Very much like the golden langur, the lion-tailed macaque is an endangered monkey who heavily relies on dense forest cover. Head to the western mountain slopes of India and you will find the Western Ghat rainforests where the lion-tailed macaque is under pressure to survive. Also known as the wanderoo, the lion-tailed macaque is an endemic species to the Western Ghat Mountains in southwestern India. It is found in the upper canopy of tropical evergreen and monsoon forests, or in simpler terms, rainforest. It is one of the smaller macaque species, but its appearance is one of the most stunning. Its silver-grey mane is found on both males and females, and each have a tuft of black fur at the end of their tail, very much like a lion. However, it's not the mane for the name, it's the tail, oddly enough. The macaque is an omnivorous animal, feeding on fig fruits, insects, eggs, and occasionally small animals. Like all other macaques, it has cheek pouches to store food while foraging, allowing it to effectively gather as much food as possible in the rainforest. Lion-tailed macaques are naturally social animals, living in troops of around 10 to 20 individuals, typically led by a dominant male. The macaque is an endangered species, however. Fewer than 2,500 remain in the wild. It is endangered by habitat loss due to deforestation for logging and agriculture, and is also hunted for its meat and fur. Its habitat has decreased so much that only about 1% of its original habitat remains. Similar to the golden langur, the lion-tailed macaque has adapted to its dense forest environment, making it increasingly difficult for them to adapt to changing habitats. Typically, lion-tailed macaques would rarely come to the ground, but lack of forest cover and food has led to an increase of macaques being forced to forage beside roadsides or cross them, leading to inevitable conflicts or accidents. So pretty much most of the major landscaping is complete, and we can see the island habitat is an actual island, not some hidden ground at the back of the habitat. The access to the island is via concrete or limestone is what I'm using platform, allowing a nice and wide space for the langurs to cross over to the island. For an immersive Indian forest island, a mix of tamarind, marula and mpingo trees are used. These are all climbable trees, perfect for creating a monkey island and also representing that Indian dry forest mix. To ensure the langurs are able to climb the trees, the null barrier height raised above the tallest tree, as this seems to be the most sure way to guarantee a climbing species can recognise all climbable materials. One of those conservation facts about the lion-tailed macaques also links to these island habitats. Due to the habitat fragmentation caused by roads, canopy bridges, or rope bridges, are constructed to connect fragmented rainforest canopies, allowing the macaques to safely cross. In these island habitats, a climbable rope bridge made out of wooden planks and climbable rope allows the langurs and macaques to cross from the island via an elevated height. showcasing how these macaques or langurs may do in the wild. This also adds a unique climbing feature not often attempted in builds, which is surprisingly traversable for the monkeys, where most materials for building bridges are made out of non-climbing materials. After tons of building this episode, let's finally tour the Satpura Zoo entrance. We start in this pretty large plaza that is typical of an Indian zoo. Large crowds require a large plaza. The ride of this plaza is rather empty right now. Later, a fantastic natural history museum will fill up that space. For the entrance, a modern building is where the zoo gates are, decorated with the zoo name, and an Indian-inspired Tree of Life statue, various animals featured. Inside, the entrance plaza continues with a lush tropical forest setting and various modern zoo amenities. The back of the entrance building is actually fully detailed. It is a small staff room for the zoo gate staff who check tickets. To the right of the entrance, a floral display is found. Lots of garden grasses and wall-mounted planters with nettles and hosta plants make a rather nice display. To the left, a typical sight of a modern Indian zoo, is a display perfect for those social media photos. I love Satpura Zoo. I hope you do. This is inspired by the same style of display found in the Delhi Zoo. Welcome to the Chatterbox Plaza. It's all about monkeys here. Chatterbox is a rather fitting name, I thought, for the 4 monkey habitats up ahead. Past these palm tree planters, we find the first food stop of the zoo, basic enough restaurant, offering outdoor dining. What is fantastic though is the views we get of the nearby habitats. The outdoor dining here gets a pretty good view of the nearby Hanuman Langur aviary. Across from the plaza, we reach the first animal habitat of the zoo. This is the geese golden langur, one of the rarest monkey species of Asia and only found at the Assam State Zoo in real life. Each animal will receive a copy of this style of signage, highlighting that it is written in both Hindu and English, the 2 main languages of India. Of course, many of us won't know a word in Hindu. I have to use Google Translate for this, but English is the same size here and easy to read for both audiences. The outdoor primate habitats at the entrance are pretty spacious. The golden langur has this impressive tropical forest island with plenty of climbing opportunities. My favourite part is easily the rope bridge, allowing the langurs here to zoom across the canopy. Around the island, a deep moat bordered by a classic Indian zoo feature, colourful walls made of in-game walls like concrete, limestone or mud walls. Leaving the langurs here, we cross the path and arrive at the langurs. Not the same langurs, of course. This species is a much more common sight across India. This is the Hanuman Langur, and it's escaped the aviary. Let's solve that real quick. I think it's a problem with the mod, but Monsoon, the modder for this langur mod, is aware of this, so hopefully it's fixed. The Hanuman Langur, or the sacred grey langur, that one may find at various Hindu temples, where they are fed or even sitting on benches in zoos. I'm not joking, several zoo tours I watched had a pair of langurs sitting on a bench, not caring at all of other people passing by. At the Satpura Zoo, these langurs have a place in one of the monkey aviaries, who have lots of climbing materials inside. The use of wooden planks, these yellow coloured planks, they actually resemble like water hoses, which some zoos do use. These are the main climbing material inside these aviaries, allowing the langurs to climb up pretty high. However, these are the culprit for the reason why these langurs sometimes glitch out and end up on the top of the aviary. Regardless though, it's fun to watch them climb all over the place. 2 more monkeys to go. Let's visit the second aviary habitat first. It's the same aviary design, but the interior is a bit different. This time it's housing the Rhesus Macaque, the most widespread non-human primate in the world, found in a total of 11 Asian countries. The macaque mod, which is based on the Japanese macaque, is definitely not as arboreal as the previous 2 langurs. However, that's not actually too unrealistic. The Rhesus Macaque is both active in the trees and on the ground, so time split between them is a good representation of their behaviour. When they do feel like climbing, they do have a nice enough selection of branches to climb up on this climbing frame. Several more small trees and bamboo do fill up this space without the excessive amount of climbable planks like the langur had. Let's backtrack just a tiny bit to reach the final outdoor habitat this episode. In this island habitat we will find the Lion-tailed Macaque. Yes, the second build for them, as the idea for blueprinting the Coldwater Falls build and inserting them fell completely flat. It was a good idea until I realised the scale and realism for macaques in an Indian zoo was wrong in every measure. So a similar habitat to the golden langurs makes the lion-tailed macaques feel right at home in an Indian zoo. Plus these rope bridges and island of trees is a way better habitat than my odd mix that I did last time. That habitat had one key feature that isn't really found at all in Indian zoos. Faux rocks, everyone's beloved faux rock walls, cannot be used in this zoo, and I have to get creative or accept the realism factor when trying to build a realistic zoo. Maybe in the Coldwater Falls Zoo, but absolutely not in the Satpura Zoo. That's the entrance tour complete. Hopefully we all enjoyed that with a project for a realistic Indian zoo. It is nice to build for a zoo that I'm not overly familiar with, and even better to showcase that to everyone else. Remember to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and join my Discord for the next video discussion. Thanks for watching everyone, and see you next time.